about a secret visit to a Moscow hotel by John Lennon.
A guy from our school, he spent 2 days and nights in the bushes without food and water, watching the entrance. And he came back and he said, I saw John Lennon. We had to believe.
I knew, schoolboys, people who convinced everyone that they have seen John Lennon on Tverskaya, on Gorky Street. It was called Gorky Street. And I personally seen him buying some bread.
We were so crazy that I saw a dream 3 or 4 times that Beatles come and I meet them and I show them Moscow and I even bring them to school and the teachers began to worry. Who are these guys? They're innocent? From what country they are? Why long hair? So it was a big scandal. I woke up in a cold sweat.
Andrei Makarevich turned his schoolboy dreams into reality, becoming one of the Soviet Union's first rock stars with his band Machina Vremeni, Time Machine. Playing only underground venues, Time Machine became skillful at avoiding police harassment. But they were never filmed until the late 70s, when Russia had moved on to big hair and bad shirts.
I can't say that we made music the first 2 years. We just tried to look like Beatles, to sound like Beatles. But we played every night. We sit in the room and just played. We listened and played, listened and played, listened, tried to sing. And we moved on.
40 years later, Andrei Makarevich and Time Machine were to make a record at the Beatles' Abbey Road studios. The legendary Beatles producer George Martin came to say hello. For his John Lennon birthday party in St. Petersburg, Kolya Vasin has assembled a dozen tribute bands to play once again the music which seduced a generation. Almost 50 years after the Beatles virus first infected the Soviet Union, it lives on in the thousands of bands who still keep the faith and play the old songs. I sometimes had a feeling on my journey that I was slipping in time, lost in an era which is hardly a memory back in my world. Being with that audience in St. Petersburg, it was obvious that the Beatles' songs still connect with kids as well as with their grandparents. But I kept remembering how tough it was for earlier generations to make this music their own. In Minsk, Yuri Pelushchenok decided the only way he could follow the Beatles was to build his own guitar.
If you're lucky, you know, have actual photograph of the Beatles guitar, yeah, Beatles guitar, and then you draw it on a table or something. I saw a table myself, my grandma table. We built all guitars at home, or sometimes even in a school shop. We just pretended to build something else.
The biggest challenge was to make a pickup to get that rock and roll sound.
I think it was a Young Technician magazine. Someone shared the idea. So how to build a pickup out of telephone receiver. So the next day, receiver's gone, all around the country. It was just like that. No, gone.
Then there was the problem of finding a speaker.
Propaganda should sound loud. If a militiaman or policeman is not watching you, yeah, you know, you just climb. And you have a decent speaker.
Equipped with his homemade guitar, Yuri was ready to follow the Beatles to rock and roll heaven.
You just hear it and you want to do it. You want to be part of it. You want to be like them. You have never seen them, but you want to be. You join together with your band, you play, and you're happy.
Все это настолько было громко, понимаете ли? Дом вот так трясло. На улице люди останавливались. Молодые открывали окна, чтобы послышать. Но потом с других подъездов к нам прибегали и говорили: «Ой, надо ребенка положить спать. А тут такая музыка! Пожалуйста, на 10 минут прекратите эту музыку!» Ну, что поделаешь. Вот так вот он и рос с Битлами вместе.
In Minsk, Yuri Pelushchenok brings his band together for the first time in 30 years.
Nobody changed too much, except for me. The last time we played in 1978, but we just met in Tolik's apartment. He grabbed guitar, I grabbed guitar, Yakov grabbed this empty canister, and we created this song. And it was quite amazing. As if we went for a smoke in 1978, and then we just returned back just 15 minutes later.
Yuri wrote a song to recall those days when Soviet kids were hungry to make rock and roll.
Подсветочных окон с гитарами за 7,50 со снятой струной сидели битлами больны и задавали тон всему району пацаны гитарную игрой. А если подключить гитару через усилок, используя для этого переносной транзистор, тогда можно сыграть нечто похожее на рок и бить при этом барабаны из пустых канистр. Эй, парень, не буди гитарой, спящих в хрущевках людей не поймут здесь гитары твоей. Я выпилил себе гитару из доски, установил звукач из трубки телефонной, но одна тяга струн, она распалась на куски, когда играл я соло своей песенки коронной. Эй, парень, не будь гитарой, спящих в хрущевках людей своей песни с припевом. Oh, yeah.
You have something in your heart, you don't let anybody to touch it, you know? It's yours. It's official life is going on, it's an official way, and you have an unofficial life. It's a huge separation, it's a huge gap.
By the early 70s, Soviet authorities began to waver. It was time to make some cautious compromise with the Beatles' generation, or at least make some money. State factories churned out guitars. The state recording monolith Melodia released a few Beatles tracks, identified at first as folk songs, played by an anonymous vocal instrumental group. Copyright fees were ignored. the Communist Party went into the bootleg business.
Not we won the victory, they lost. And they say, at least we will squeeze some money out of it. Make a virtue of necessity, you know, just you couldn't win, you make money.
Andrei Tropilo made a reputation in St. Petersburg recording the first Russian rock bands. He funded his passion by making bootleg Beatles records. These days, Tropilo churns out legitimate CDs and DVDs.
It's a very clever process.
But in Soviet times, Tropilo became a director with the state record company Melodia, duplicating Beatles albums for the Soviet masses.
Actually, all homes in those times have Beatles records. All homes, believe me. Of course, when I became the melody director, I produced many 100,000 albums of Beatles. People have right to have it, to use it, to listen. I support not copyright, but copyleft. Because I'm sure that in Russia we should support musical piracy, because musical piracy was the key to have freedom in Russia, to have free information.
Andrei Tropilo confirmed his place in Soviet Beatles mythology by inserting his face into the iconic Sgt. Pepper album sleeve. As Beatles music became more available in the 1970s, Beatles style began to obsess a generation, 10 years after it had faded in the West.
They influenced everything. They influenced our music, they influenced our life, our way of living, our dress, how we dress. They influenced everything, actually.
All the hairstyles, you know, cowboy boots and everything. So it was like an amazing power, because all the youngsters, all young people, they started to imitate. They started to feel more free.
What was available, a bad quality photos of the Beatles, God knows taken from where, from which album or cover or newspaper and so on. And you can buy this picture for 50 kopecks. And it was a choice, either to have a breakfast or to buy this Beatles picture. They wouldn't be able to buy any kind of clothes in Soviet shops. And just with some imagination and a pair of scissors, we would turn an ordinary school jacket into a collarless Beatles jacket.
And of course, Lennon's glasses. Lennon's glasses is just fashion, just all 22 square million kilometers of Soviet Union, Lennon glasses.
There were several specially trained guys who would be transforming army boots, real army boots, very heavy and ugly and so on, into some kind of elegant Beatles style.
Each and every person who had a guitar and mopped up hairstyle was a Russian Beatle. I was. I was skinny, huge hair, guitar. Paul McCartney, playing bass.
I spent like 2 or 3 hours just trying to stretch my hairs and made myself a haircut to make myself look like Beatles. So not only the boys were copying the Beatles hairstyle, but the girls as well.
So it was like a fairy tale, and lots of people just having a glimpse, a small window out from the West.
By the early 1980s, the gap between the Beatles generation and their geriatric leaders had become unbridgeable. As the huge country stagnated, millions of young people defected into their own world.
If we talk about the historical impact of the Beatles, they have alienated a whole generation of young, well-educated, urban Soviet kids from their communist motherland. They wanted to live in an alternative world, consuming alternative culture, pursuing alternative lifestyle